Hello everyone, this is Jake, your resident content cowboy here, yeehaw, and I am here with a video giving you some beginner tips and hopefully some tips that maybe you don't know even if you've been playing for a little while for Chivalry 2. And they say Chivalry's dead. Ha! Take that, those people who want me to stop saying that. Just in case you were wondering, all my footage is captured on a PS5, and I guess if it matters at all, I really like Chivalry. If you want to know whether or not you should pick it up, I would highly recommend it. It's all multiplayer, and it is a ton of fun. Let's get into these tips. Oh, and if I say something here that you find valuable at all, a like or a comment, I'd really appreciate it. Let's do the dang thing. I have another video where I talk a little bit more about the classes, and I'll talk about them a bit later in this video, but my first tip would just be pick a class, one that sounds cool, and stick with that for a little while when you first start. You're going to need to start to understand how that weapon works, how its swing functions, and once you get a hang of that, you can bounce around a little bit. I think you'll have a better time if you start to figure out one class before you jump into all of them. My next tip, when you're fighting with your team, use your overhead swing or your stab motion. Don't use your big wild swings. You could see there me using my overhead swing. Now I'm using these big wild swings and oop, I popped his head off, but I also killed my ally. Be careful of that. So again, when you're surrounded by allies, let's use an overhead swing or a stab. If it's just you alone with enemies, swing like a madman for sure. Here's a tip about being downed. Once you're downed, there are two things you can do. You can back up and try to run to an ally, which can be a good idea, or you can use your attack to punch at enemies on the ground, and if you're able to hit two of them, you can pick yourself back up. It's pretty rare because people will notice you crawling on the ground and try to kill you. So I think more often than not, it would be good to find an ally if possible. However, if there's a lot going on and they're not noticing you, start swiping at the people and then you are able to pick yourself back up. My next tip is about abilities. Each class has an ability that charges over time, and it seems to increase its charge when you do good things like killing people or healing allies. And it charges fast enough that you should use it pretty often. I'm the Vanguard right here, and you just saw me throw my oil pot. Don't just sit on your ability forever looking for the perfect time to use it. Obviously, you don't want to throw it at no one or something like that, but if you're a Vanguard, throw that oil pot at a group of enemies. You'll get another chance very soon. While we're on abilities, each class and sometimes their subclasses have different ones. There's the Knight right here. I just used his horn to heal my allies. You'll see little green medical symbols above their heads when they need it. What are they, at a weed store or something? And there I am with the footman as well, just throwing my med kit at an ally. So use your abilities, people. Here is the archer. I'm putting down his brazier. You just put your arrow near it and then you start shooting it and lighting everybody on fire. So it's really important to use your abilities. Again, they come up often enough that you should take advantage of them. You don't want to waste them, of course, and do nothing with them. But if you're going to be in combat, go ahead and light your arrows up. Just don't shoot all your teammates. It's pretty easy to shoot all your teammates. Speaking of not shooting your teammates, a quick little tip is to have some height advantage over your allies. It helps you pick off enemies a little bit better and not spend the whole time shooting arrows into your friends' backs. My next tip is that it's important to notice how your weapon connects with enemies. So this big great sword here, I swiped with my screen a little bit, your right stick, to move the camera. And that's also moving where your attack connects with the enemy. So I just swiped up near their heads there, and my sword connected right where their heads were at, and it lopped them both off. So start noticing how your attacks connect when you swipe. If you're around a lot of enemies, go ahead and take some big, long swipes and move the camera the whole way so your sword hits everybody as you go. Sprinting is something that happens automatically. You don't have to click your left stick in or something like that. Just as you're running in a direction for a little while, you start to see these two arrows appear in the middle of the screen, and that means your character is sprinting. When you're sprinting, you can do a couple things. You can do a sprint attack, depending on the weapon you have, or you can do a tackle. It's different for every weapon, so take some time to figure out what it is for your weapon. A sprint attack can be really, really powerful, and a tackle can actually knock someone down and really disorients them. Whenever I play a game like this, I like to think about how I can be the most useful member of my team for my skill level. Look, I'm never going to be the best. One way to do it, pick up your allies. If you see them crawling on the ground, run on over and pick them up. They will love you for it, even if they don't thank you. See, I told you, chivalry's not dead. Speaking of being a team player, my next tip, do the objective. Go to those objective markers on the map and do what they are asking you to do. So if it's asking you to free the prisoners by breaking open these cages, of course, kill these little idiots that are near it. But after you do that, break open the cage. Do the objectives. Help your team. Be with your team. Fight with your team. It really helps. And you're going to enjoy the game a lot more because you're winning more. My next tip is to start to get familiar with your secondary weapons. This knight right here has a smaller sword and little throwing knives. They're useful. Start to get to know how to use them. Also, I love picking up things in the environment and chucking them at people. So yeah, give that a shot. It's a lot of fun. Sorry that I don't know the controls on other consoles, but I wanted to talk to you about the direction of your swing. So you'll notice when you're swinging, your sword is going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, always starting from the right to the left. But if you hold in your left stick, it changes the direction of your swing. So you can start with a left directional stab or a left directional overhead. Switching this up can be the difference between you hitting them or not. So notice where they are blocking and try to position your blade to hit where they are not blocking. I wish I had a better way to say that, but that's what you want to try to do. Absolutely use your bandages when you're hurt in combat. It's up on the D-pad and you start to wrap it around yourself and you get a ton of health back that gradually recovers. So obviously you want to make sure that you don't die immediately after getting all that health back, but it is so useful. You die so often in this game, so if half your health is gone, bandage up, baby. Ooh, nice little bonus tip also. Not only do you restock things like throwing knives and arrows at one of these supply stations, you can also restock your bandages. So other characters besides just the archer can take use of this station. Quick tip coming at you fast. When your team is moving forward, I usually accept the forward spawn ability right on the D-pad when this comes up. It suicides your character, so I guess if you have a problem with that, you know, whatever. But it just puts you a lot closer to where the action is. Definitely do it. Something to remember if you're an archer is that if you run out of arrows, you're still not completely useless. Of course, you can go get more ammo, but if you want, you can just switch your weapon and start fighting. No, Jake, not the spikes. You can switch to your little pokey sword and start cutting people up. It attacks pretty fast, and a lot of people don't expect you to get up there and start fighting, so it can work out to your advantage. Another quick little archer tip, its little spike trap can be good if an enemy's running at you. You can pop it down. If you do it right and put it at the last second, they can run into it and hurt themselves. And a lot of people don't expect that you're going to do that. It's a nice way to deal with that person who's just running straight at you and you're starting to get stressed because they're going to lop your head off. Also, if you're not an archer, I'm sure you know this, but from time to time, boy, it's fun and pretty useful to go ahead and take your weapon and just throw it at people. Sometimes you want to throw them all. You can run around and start punching them right in the face if you want. No one can stop you. Punch them. Punch them all. And when you punch people, yeah, you end up dying a lot. My last and maybe most important tip is to spend some time on the character select screen looking at the different abilities of your weapons and the characters. So for instance, the knight right here has 175 health, moves at 80 speed, and has 80 stamina. That's good to know that the knight is sort of the tankiest person on the battlefield. And then you can go through all the weapons and see what each one does. You could see the Longbowman has the least amount of health with 90. The Devastator has 130. You also get to see how each weapon performs and what all of their abilities do. It's really good. They give you the bonuses and negatives of choosing each class. So take some time to notice what works best for all of these. If they tell you that a particular weapon is really, really good at slashing and a different weapon is great at overhead strikes, take that into account when you are in battle. Spending some time here, I think, is invaluable. Also, you can see what you maybe want to upgrade. For instance, if you want to start using a greatsword, the Vanguard is a great class to pick. The more you level up with it, the closer you get to unlocking that big old sword. And that also is how you get that pre-order bonus sword. I think that's the only way to use it is with that particular Vanguard class. So spend some time on this screen. It's really, really beneficial. Well, I hope those tips helped you. I know that those are things that I wish I knew when I first started playing Chivalry. Thank you all for watching and listening. I'll see you on the battlefield. I'll be the guy throwing people's heads at you. That's kind of my thing. And they say chivalry's dead. Bye.